Good evening. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm pleased to welcome you all here to tonight's meeting, the Brighton Town Board, December 14th, 2016. I do want to note that for those of you that are here in the room, we have our agenda and all supporting material on the back table for public review. For those of you that are watching us on either our YouTube channel, streaming our live stream, or on channel 12, cable access channel, you have the opportunity as well to review the agenda and supporting material by going to the town's webpage, www.townofbrighton.org, and the materials are there. I do want to give a special shout out tonight because we were a little bit challenged by some things out of our control, and I want to thank the town clerk is down at that end of the office, and a lot of people visit Dan, but his staff, they do a great job. But sometimes we forget to give Dan the kind of credit he deserves, and Dan really pulled things together today. In the face of, of some circumstances beyond everybody's control. So I want to thank you for that
Thank you,
very much,
Supervisor.
Dan. We put those documents out up online and here in the room to give everybody an opportunity to participate in these meetings. This is your open government. We believe that's important, and we strive at all of these meetings to be as open and accessible as we can be. Sometimes not all of our residents like that, but that's okay. Just joking. We had a young resident here in the room there. If you are watching from somewhere other than here in the room and would like to participate in the open forum, we'll be going to the open forum in just a little bit, but we'll give you the instructions for doing that. In case of an emergency, the town hall emergency alarm system will be activated. You'll know it when you hear it. If it goes off, please exit the building in this room immediately, either by the door to my right, marked with the exit sign. If you go out that door, turn right, down the stairs, and out the back door of town hall and away from the building, or through either of the two double doors in the rear of the room, also marked with exit signs, through the lobby, out the main front door of town hall, down the stairs, and again, away from the building. We're going to start with a pledge to the flag. I'm going to ask Councilman Jason DePonzio to lead us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jason. I want to start with a moment of silence this evening in memory of a man who served this community for many years as a firefighter. We mourn his passing. Many of us knew Stephen Ross. He was a good man from a family that has done so much for our town, and we mourn his passing today. So can we have a moment of silence in Stephen's memory? Thank you. Before the open forum begins, we have some, one of those things that we always like to celebrate. And Chief Henderson is going to the podium, and I'll let you.
Well, Supervisor, as you may recall, and members of the board, that we started a new tradition. Oftentimes, I'll put together a communication. We'll recommend the appointment of a police officer, and the community doesn't really get to know these police officers before they start. So what I'd like to do tonight is to introduce to the community two police officers, one that started on October 29th and one that just started this past Monday. Officer LaBarbera, could you join me here at the podium, please? This is Police Officer Joseph LaBarbera. He started with the Brighton Police Department on October 29, 2016. He and his family relocated from Orange County. He had previously worked with the Village of Montgomery. He's a 3-year police veteran. He is finishing up his preliminary field training. I hear nothing but great things. One of the things that stuck out to us and our team when we did the interviews was Joseph's commitment to community that was vetted through our background process, and I look forward to having Officer LaBarbera join us here at the Brighton Police Department. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Joining Joseph is his family, his wife Ariel. He had to go outside with Joey, and this is Haley. They recently moved here.
I'm sorry, that was Haley?
Haley.
Haley,
Front
very,
row.
very
So,
excited.
I don't mean to put
to
you on
see
the
her
spot.
father.
You're welcome to say a few words if you like. If not, we'll understand.
I wasn't prepared for a speech tonight, but I do want to thank the board and Chief Henderson for giving me the opportunity to come here. I did come from far, a quiet little village, and I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to work in the town of Brighton.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next officer I'd like to introduce is Officer Spencer Bills. He started with the Brighton Police Department this past Monday. You're in the initial training phase with our firearms. Spencer joins us from the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. He's very familiar with the town of Brighton. He's a resident homeowner here in the town. He also is a 3-year veteran, and I heard nothing but great things about Spencer from my colleagues in the Sheriff's Department. He is a graduate summa cum laude from Rochester Institute of Technology, and again, he has a proven track record of community policing and community engagement, and it's my pleasure to welcome Officer Spencer Bills to the Brighton Police Department. Spencer.
Thank you, everybody. I think the only person who's the happiest that I'm here is Officer LaBarbera, because now he's not the new guy anymore. Today is actually my 3rd day, and everyone that I've encountered is nothing but professional and friendly. And people have been asking me how I like it so far, and I just said that it seems like everybody's just happy to be here and enjoys their job, and that's really what I'm looking for. I bought a house here over 12 Corners, and it's only a mile commute to work, and I wanted to be part of the community I lived in, and a bunch of stars aligned. I wound up being able to come here, and I'm very, very excited to be here, and I hope we do have some interaction with you guys, because I think that's important. I think that's something that was missing in my last department. There's a big disconnect between the local government and the police, and I think that affected some things. So here, seeing that there's such a tight relationship is very uplifting, and I'm hoping that continues. And thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Great. And I really do. I welcome you both here and your families. It's a great thing. You know, a lot of times we see these men and women in our police department, and we think of them maybe sometimes as tough guys. But I had the opportunity just this evening to see a little softer side. Mark, you may not even know about this call. But I had to go down. There was the Chamber of Commerce. Brighton Chamber of Commerce had something going on this evening down at Brickstone. And there were some flashing lights. And it was clear there was some kind of, I assumed it was an accident on Elmwood Avenue. But I got a little closer. And what it was, and Mark's nodding now, he does know about this.
Actually, I had somebody call me prior to the officer's arrival, but I'm seeing where this is going. Go ahead.
And the police officers, the vehicle in the street, and the officers in the street were not dealing with an accident. They were dealing with a fawn. Or a deer. I guess it's a little late in the season to really be a fawn, but there was a young deer in the middle of Elmwood Avenue, probably scared by all the deer in the headlights, the old saying. So they were trying to make sure that the deer got out of the road so that the deer was safe and that the traffic could continue. So we have a very sophisticated, professional police department. And we also have a police department with a wonderful community touch for some of those softer calls that are just as important. So I hope you get a great variety of work in the work that you do, and we really do appreciate what you've done. I'm going to just take a moment of personal privilege because we're talking about the department, and I do want to just say a few words. Many of you probably saw the media coverage last night of the fact that press conference that Chief Henderson, Monroe County Undersheriff Forsyth, Pittsford Supervisor Bill Smith, and myself held right here at the Brighton Police Department to announce that our law enforcement, the police department and sheriff, had identified the individual that had distributed the racist flyers in some neighborhoods in Brighton and in Pittsford. This identification came after a significant investigation into the matter. And that investigation was important. I think it was very important. The decision ultimately was made after that investigation not to charge this individual with a crime. But the hateful nature, and I can't stress enough, hateful nature of these flyers and the need to make some other determinations relating to the individual and his intent and his actions made that investigation very important. At the press conference yesterday, I indicated just how important I know the First Amendment is, and the First Amendment does protect individual rights to free speech. But speech does have its consequences, particularly hateful speech like this. I agree with the decision, and it was a decision that was made. The law enforcement agencies, they consulted with the DA's office, they reviewed the new guidelines from the Attorney General Schneiderman, as it relates to hate crimes in making that decision. But I said yesterday, and I will say again, on behalf of my colleagues, certainly here up at the table, and the entire community of Brighton, we reject, uncategorically, we reject the notion that odious hate speech of this kind has any place in a diverse community like Brighton, like Pittsford, or any other community. It's an act of cowardice. Someone that felt that distributing these flyers at the middle of the night, it was not what you or I might think of as rational political dialogue. There was no one here trying to engage in any kind of rational conversation. This was someone sending out a hateful message by dark of night. It was an attempt to divide our community. And what we know now is that it failed, because this is not a community that is divided about the value. This is not a community that is divided, that we celebrate the diversity of our community. Those of us that have lived in Brighton a long time aren't surprised that hate speech of this kind was rejected, because we know what kind of community Brighton is. I'm proud of Brighton. I'm proud of the people of Pittsford as well. The Pitts Forward group, as well as CURB, Community Uprooting Racism in Brighton. Those two groups and the dialogues that those two groups have begun and continued in the community, those are the legacy. Those are the result of this misguided speech, hate speech by this individual. Pittsford Supervisor Bill Smith and I walked together in the Pittsford Unity Walk. He was not able to be here for Brighton, but 300 of you did on a kind of a nasty night, and you walked to send a message that you and your neighbors reject messages intended to divide us and that you celebrate the diversity that is Brighton, and I applaud you for that. Mark, I don't know if there's anything you want to say from a law enforcement perspective.
I would like to commend the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. They assisted us. Once a tip was received, we had a coordinated, cooperative effort. After the press conference and today, there's some criticism about the amount of resources that were dedicated to this investigation. I would do it again. I believe the sheriff and the undersheriff had said the same thing. This was disturbing and alarming to both of our communities. It needed to be addressed. Yes, the First Amendment does protect speech, and once it was determined that it was not actionable speech, we clearly tried to explain to our communities through the media our approach. But hopefully this will never happen again. I have opened a dialogue with the individual to let him know exactly what this meant to the Brighton community and to the Pittsford community. Hopefully this will never have to be addressed again. That's what our hope and intent for the individual. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. And again, kudos, yes, to the sheriff, but I agree that the investigation was important given the nature of the crime, and I am most appreciative for the work that you, starting from the top, but that the department did in investigating, working with the neighbors, working with the community to make sure it was a thorough investigation. And one of the last things we said, and I will say it again, we are prepared to sit down and speak with this individual. I firmly believe that communities are made better when people sit down and talk, when they break bread. And as difficult an incident as this was, and as odious as I do find the speech, the chief and I, again, and Supervisor Smith, our desire is still there. We would like to sit down and speak with this gentleman. We would like him to better understand the kind of communities that Brighton and Pittsford are. And we hope that really in the spirit of, I guess what I would call restorative judgment, restorative justice rather, that this can be an incident. We've already seen some positives coming from it, and I am enough of an optimist that I would like to think that through that dialogue we can see even more. So I don't have any reason to believe he is or isn't watching, but again, I think it's important that he and the community knows that we are prepared to have that conversation. So thank you. We are now going to begin the open forum. Oh, excuse me, one more public service announcement, one of our usual announcements. If you are watching on cable channel 12 and you experience technical difficulties with the live broadcast, the audio or the video, please call Time Warner or whatever they're called, Charter, whatever they're called these days. 756-5000, 756-5000 to report any technical difficulties with the live broadcast on cable channel 12. Now, the open forum. As I mentioned before, we do start every meeting with an open forum. It's an opportunity for members of the audience to address the town board about any matter, whether or not it's on the agenda. Now, I will note that we do have one public hearing on the agenda tonight concerning the proposed e-cigarette and/or vapor sales local law. If you are here for that public hearing and would like your comments to be reflected in the record of that public hearing, I would ask that you wait until the public hearing is called. But if you would like to speak about any other matter, I will recognize members of the audience wishing to speak. When you've been recognized, please come to the podium. If you would, I would ask that you give your name and address. Please direct your comments to the board and not to other members of the audience. Please be courteous. Keep your comments as concise as possible. If you have written comments, you may provide them to the clerk and he'll make sure they are included in the record. If you're at home or somewhere else watching and you would like to participate in the open forum with a comment or question, please call 303-3060 and you will be, your comment will be relayed up to me. I'll make an effort to answer it. And by the way, if there are questions that we can't answer, we'll try to get back to you as soon after the meeting as possible. We also have a TDD line for residents that are deaf who would like to participate in the open forum with a comment. Our TDD line is 784-5205. Again, our TDD line, 784-5205, for persons who are deaf who would like to participate in the open forum. We did have a request from the Daniele family, the applicant for the proposed Whole Foods Plaza, to make a presentation tonight. They are submitting tonight a new traffic impact study and supplemental draft environmental impact statement. And I just want to give everybody a little background. The proposed Whole Foods Plaza proposal remains in the environmental review phase. I want to make it very clear, because this is the question I get asked more than anything else. No final decisions have been made, approving, disapproving, one way or the other, with respect to this project. We are in the environmental review. Very premature to be thinking in terms of a final decision. But as part of that environmental review, the applicant had submitted earlier this year an initial traffic study and draft environmental impact statement, or DEIS, under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, known as SEQR. At that time, once the town board had found that DEIS to be complete and adequate for public review, the board set a public hearing. And some of you were here and spoke as a part of that public hearing, and we had an opportunity for written comment following that hearing. Back in August 24th, the town board made a decision following that public hearing that it would direct the applicant to prepare a new traffic impact study and what is called a supplemental draft environmental impact statement, again, pursuant to the provisions of SEQR. The developer has done so, has submitted that new traffic impact study and other materials to the town, and on tonight's agenda, the town is formally receiving those documents into the record tonight. Included in those documents are responses by the applicant to the comments received during the public hearing and the written comment period. Those are responses to comments made by members of the community, members of the town board, town staff, and the town consultant. All of these documents are available for review. They are up on the town's webpage. They are back in the back of the room. Now that we've received this supplemental DEIS and new traffic impact study, we will review these documents, and similarly to what we did for the original DEIS, our first decision will be to determine whether they are in fact complete and adequate for public review. If so, the town will schedule a public hearing on those documents, a very similar process to what we went through on the initial draft environmental impact statement. Again, I want to stress, no decisions have been made, either up or down, on this project, whether to approve it or disapprove it. There will be additional public hearings, including a public hearing on this supplemental draft environmental impact statement. Before any final decisions are made, the community will have an opportunity to share their comments, their questions, their insights. I would also note that unlike many communities, this meeting and all of our meetings are broadcast on cable channel 12, our cable access channel. They are live streamed on our YouTube channel. All documents submitted in connection with this and other applications are available on the town website. We have a special section in our documents for documents relating to private development projects, and that's where you will find these. So with that background, again, the applicant has asked for an opportunity to address the board in the open forum tonight. I've indicated to them that they will have not more than 20 minutes to make a presentation this evening. So I will turn it over to whomever is going to make a presentation on behalf of the applicant. Welcome. I think we'll move back so we can see.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and this honorable body for allowing us the opportunity to present this evening. The purpose tonight is not to provide any new information, but instead to summarize the updated traffic impact study and information in the supplemental environmental impact statement that you are reading and filing this evening. We'll make our presentation brief as possible, understanding that there is a lot of information, however, and we will not be spending time this evening on technical information, but instead presenting it more in layman's terms and giving a summary of facts and not the opinion of the developer. This traffic impact statement is in fact the 6th update, the original drafted in July of 2014. This process has involved SRF traffic engineers, the New York State DOT, who has reviewed and commented on several of the updated studies, Stantec engineers, and Passero Associates. This latest traffic impact study was completed in collaboration with Stantec and the New York State Department of Transportation, whereby we met with them several times to share methodology, calibrate data, and make sure that we're all on the same page before proceeding to analyze the final results. This has been a team effort that has resulted in arguably the most comprehensive and exhaustive traffic study any of these engineers and even the New York State DOT has ever seen for a project of this size. We certainly understand how important this project is to this board, this community, to our neighbors. And I can assure you that we've taken this process very seriously. I think very few would argue against that. I can think of a few, but very few. The purpose of this study is to give this town board analytical determination of how does traffic in this development area function under current conditions, background conditions, and how will it function under the proposed developed conditions? Especially, what will the difference be? And what can be done to mitigate the traffic on the corridor and the surrounding areas of travel. Now, with all fairness to public opinion, our opinion, frankly, as developers, or the opinion of other legal counsel and other community-based organizations, this traffic impact study is based in fact, and as I said before, in collaboration with the New York State Department of Transportation and reviewed by an independent consultant and consulted with this independent consultant, Stantec Engineers. And I would ask that this board review this traffic impact study under those guides and without prejudice. The results of the study, and these are quotes from the traffic impact study, is that the new signal will improve safe access to and from the properties on the south side of Monroe Avenue and allow a controlled pedestrian crossing where one does not currently exist. Now, unquote. Speaking of accidents, the accidents, as you can see up here on this chart, and this is information provided by the Brighton Police Department, you can see that traffic accidents have cut nearly in half and are trending downward through the past few years. You'll also see that injuries from these accidents have also been cut nearly in half over the past few years. Now, I realize that this is a sensitive subject this evening because I know there was an accident yesterday on Monroe Avenue near our offices, near the car wash in this corridor. And what I can tell you is that with the addition of the new traffic signal, which would provide gaps on Monroe Avenue, it is likely, not certain, I can't say for certain, but it is likely that accidents like that one, and I say like that one because many of the accidents that occur on Monroe Avenue, these numbers that we look up here, are accidents very similar to what happened yesterday. And with a gap provided with the new signal that's going in there, some of these accidents can be prevented. These injuries can be prevented. Likewise, phase 1 of our access management plan, which creates backage roads and allows vehicles to exit to the new signal, would also improve safety along the corridor. Some other results from the traffic studies. Mitigation measures include coordination of the new signals with other signals along the corridor, and while the DOT is hesitant to use smart traffic literally, but they use the term coordinated signals, minor signal adjustments at the Clover and Allens Creek intersection, and pavement marking modifications on northbound Westfall Road at Monroe are mitigation measures. Other results, extensive synchro sim traffic analysis show that traffic will in fact not gridlock or back up to I-590, and that traffic does and will continue to flow safely and effectively in the post-developed condition. It also states that while there will be slight increase in traffic volumes, with the recommended mitigations, there are not significant negative impacts that will result from the proposed redevelopment at the intersections or roadways in this study area. The analysis of the alternatives, including the as-of-right alternative, these variances in densities, because that's really what we're talking about when we talk about the different developments, different access points, but it's densities, have a negligible effect on the number of trips generated from the site and an even smaller effect on the functioning of the corridor. And finally, one of the results, and I quote, "The traffic capacity of Monroe Avenue and the surrounding study area supports the redevelopment for the proposed 90,000-foot retail center and confirms that there will be no significant adverse environmental impacts relating to traffic." Now here we have a picture, and the next step in the study is to confirm base conditions, which include current traffic volumes, queuing, signal timings, all which were required by SRF engineers and confirmed by New York State Department of Transportation and Stantec engineers to be accurate and reasonable. Now, why did the New York State DOT say that our previous background conditions from the last rendition of the traffic study, they said they were faulty, they said they were underestimated? And when you look at this picture, which is traffic on August 25th, 2016 at 5:23 in the evening, I would agree that traffic appears to be backing up. And if you look at the next slide, which is taken about a week before, you can see traffic backing up onto 590. And that's about the time that we received the letter. And when we received the letter, called our traffic engineer, and we went outside, and here we are observing conditions similar to these. And it's hard to disagree with what the DOT said, which is not good as a developer. So we, as our traffic engineer and with assistance from other engineers, we concluded that there were several failures at the Monroe-Clover intersection that were going on, including broken loops in the road, a faulty pedestrian signal button that was throwing the signal timing out of whack, and a signal timing computer, which is what these things are, that's the intersection of Monroe and Clover, that was malfunctioning and kept defaulting to a setting different than was supposed to be controlling that intersection. To make a long story short, After several meetings with the New York State DOT and many physical observations of how the signal in the intersection was behaving during peak traffic hours, collaborating with DOT to implement an improved signal timing plan. And what we'll see next, the New York State DOT admitted in a meeting, and I won't go through who was there, but many people were there, they admitted that they gave SRF engineers bad information regarding the signal timing. What we see on top here is the signal timing that was supposed to be implemented at Clover and Monroe post the redevelopment safety measures on Monroe Avenue, whereby in 2014 they removed that third lane. When they were done, they were supposed to implement this. And by this, the most important segment is we're here where it says 78. That's the amount of seconds of green time during peak travel times that eastbound Monroe Avenue, so going from the expressway heading into Pittsford, which is the most common area of travel and frankly the topic of conversation when we talk about queues and backups, et cetera, was supposed to be set at 78 seconds. This next one is what we were actually observing at the time, which is 47 seconds, a difference of 31 seconds. Now, 31 seconds when you have a bunch of cars traveling on a busy road is a lot of green time to be missing, and the cause of the chaos and the backup that was observed by New York State DOT, and frankly, that we observed after we received that letter. And after working with DOT, we were able to convince them through our engineers, through their engineers, help from Stantec, that this was a reasonable compromise that would improve the functioning of that intersection, which is really at the core of the function of this corridor. And so this third signal timing sequence is what the DOT has said and what has been calibrated and confirmed to be happening at the time this traffic study was updated. The results, what we see here, this is October 6, 2016, 5:34 p.m. This is with that new signal timing at Monroe and Clover. And what you see is that the queuing is greatly reduced from almost 1,500 feet, which would go by about to the entrance of I-590, which is what the DOT claims to have observed, and we believe them, and brings down the queue. And queue is measured, it's a very technical way, but whatever, to about 900 feet, which is what we all agreed was a reasonable number, which is about Mario's current entrance. At 900 feet, this Monroe Avenue corridor clears out in one signal. So in other words, you shouldn't have to wait, and you do not have to wait more than one signal to get through the intersection, and that is considered good. There's no more backing up onto I-590. And as you can see and have probably experienced even now during a peak holiday season, the traffic on Monroe Avenue is even less congested than ever before. Next slide. This is a SimTraffic video, and to briefly tell you, SimTraffic is a computer-generated program that is programmed by traffic engineers. SRF programmed this with help and input from Stantec engineers. New York State DOT has reviewed different renditions of this. They are in the process of reviewing this one, but Stantec, independent consultant, has been working with SRF engineers to confirm the accuracy and fix a few of the things that they commented from the last submission to be fixed. And what you'll notice, and most importantly, when we're talking about existing conditions, this, and it's hard to see, they're ants, it's hard to see, but if you're watching on TV and you watch the recording, you can take a look at it. You can see that this intersection clears every time. You can see that there's no gridlock. You can see up here, there's no backup on I-590. There's no backup on the 590 exit here. There's no backing up anywhere. No backing up is good, and this is a sim video that represents traffic during the PM peak, so between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the evening. It can't be understated that the most significant traffic mitigation measure that has already resulted from this development is the coordination with the New York State Department of Transportation to fix this signal at Monroe and Clover and implement suggested timing configuration. This is a picture taken from above. This picture is December 9th of this year, not 2017, my apologies. That would be pretty cool if we could do that, but we can't. This is this year, this is a couple weeks ago, and this is in December. And all you hear is how bad traffic is on Monroe Avenue in December. And this shows that this is queuing up not even to the point that we're using as background conditions. It's queuing up to about Clover Lanes, maybe a little bit before. It clears every time. Both sides of Clover Street clear every time. And this is a well-functioning corridor 2 weeks before Christmas between 5:24 and 5:39 p.m. At this point in the study, the DOT, the town's independent consultant, are confident that our existing conditions are accurate. The video of what's really happening matches the computer model of what we believe is happening. Our traffic engineers needed to evaluate what will traffic look like post-development in the study area. The things to consider: trip generation, or how many vehicles will enter and exit the new development, corridor volumes, what the effect of the new signal will have on the corridor, and what alternatives did we study and what did they conclude. Looking at this table, this next table, trip generation, this is showing the different alternatives that were studied. And the most significant alternatives, alternative 1, which is the proposed action or what we are applying to do, and alternative 6 is worthy of note. That is the as of right alternative. As of right means that the site is being developed in this alternative to what code allows. Code allows 10,000 feet per acre, and we have taken, through our engineers who know a lot more about this stuff than I do, have designed a plan to code. And what you'll notice is there is not a big difference in traffic generation. Now, the word unadjusted, again, for the sake of time, I won't get too far into it, but adjustments are things like you can't use site generation to necessarily correlate with how much more traffic will it bring on Monroe Avenue. In the AM peak, for the plan that we have where we're proposing a Starbucks, it is safe to say that a lot of traffic that's going in and out of the plaza is traffic that is driving by on the way to work. It's not new traffic. And so there is adjusted site generation, and we'll get to how much more traffic volume will be on the boulevard in a second. So here we have alternative 1 at 90,000 square feet and alternative 6 at roughly 70,000 square feet, and you'll see that there is not much of a difference. Now, the differences come with intensity of uses. Typically, if you're going to build less square footage, you might have and probably will have more intense uses because the economics of developing a site are such that the less square footage you have, the more you have to charge per square footage, and therefore the uses that are compatible with those rates are higher intensity uses, like drive-through banks, like restaurants, things like that, which if you look at our original plan, included a drive-through bank, included a restaurant, and in fact, had higher trip generations. Going on to density, we're talking about density, and this is small writing, so we won't get into numbers, but there have been many comments made about the proposed density of this redevelopment, and while trip generation and the effect of the redevelopment will have on traffic is not directly correlated with density, density is a consideration. Here we have a density analysis and showing that this project, when compared to other in the development area, the Brighton Monroe Avenue corridor, is much smaller. And this proposal is significantly less dense and will incorporate more green space, more parking, more amenities than almost any, if not all, developments along the corridor. The capacity analysis, and I'll touch on this very briefly, you see these letters. They're called level of service, and I've seen some comments where people get hung up on letters. It's simply a measure of seconds of delay that a car has to wait at an intersection. And the reality is a change in just a few seconds, and this might be hard to see, but 19.7 seconds to 25.9 changes a letter grade. Up here you'll see a situation where you go from 11 seconds to 9 and it improves. The reality is, and we'll let the technical people get more into this, but most of the letter grades don't change at all. and the few that do, up or down, are negligible. And therefore, again, it is safe to say that there is not a significant negative effect on these delays in the neighborhood. The next slide is traffic volumes. And again, this is most importantly where we look at what is really the difference. We have background or existing, what's going on the avenue right now, alternative one, and what's the difference. And the way to look at this, if there's 77 more cars AM peak, that's per hour, so that's roughly 1 per minute, 1.1. 155 is 2 cars an hour, 3 cars an hour, and so on and so on. 7 is literally 1 car every 8 minutes. And so when you're talking about how much more traffic, next slide, you'll see that there isn't really a big change. We have green, which is existing traffic, and blue, which is full build traffic. And you'll see on the next slide that most of the peak is really 45 minutes, and AM peak is really not all that significant, and it drops off very quickly after that. And I am concluding, Mr. Supervisor. So with the mitigations measures in place, the overall queuing shows actual improvement or reduced queues in most cases, and most importantly shows the ability for vehicles exiting the plaza to have adequate space to get onto Monroe. And what we're showing here is that with the new signal will be coordinated green to come out of the plaza at the same time as southbound Clover. And that is important because what happens is this clears out, the queue is back to here. So in this scenario, this is green right now, this would be green right now, there would be a red light right there, these cars would be stopped, and the models are showing that there's at least 250 feet. And this is, again, these are always studies that are done during the worst time of the day with the most traffic, that there is plenty of room for vehicles to stack into Monroe Avenue and therefore eliminate the possibility or greatly reduce to almost nil the possibility of gridlock. And likewise in the morning, these coordination of signals, which is so important, will make sure that when cars are coming north on Clover and turning towards the expressway, this light won't be red at that point and stopping that traffic and again creating a situation where cars are backing up where that doesn't work well. And while we're showing this last sim traffic, which we'll leave on the screen while I conclude, this is a sim traffic of the project under full development with this red light, the new signal operating. And what you'll see is that this operates, see the red light stopped right there, the cars flush out, they're coordinated with here. And what you'll notice at the end of the day is that these signals clear out and that this operation functions very well under full build. And in conclusion, SRF engineers, Stantec engineers, Passero Associates, Kostich engineers, and my family have worked tirelessly to make sure that we've left no stone unturned and that we've addressed the scope for both the DEIS and now the SEIS. And this traffic study in its 6th revision, after repeated scrutiny and comment by all interested agencies and the public, is comprehensive, it is complete, and accurately depicts both the background and future conditions. It demonstrates that this proposed redevelopment does not pose a significant negative effect on traffic or on other traffic-related issues, and that the mitigations proposed, and frankly some already implemented, have made and will continue to make Monroe Avenue a functional and efficient corridor to serve both the residents and customers of this area. And finally, I would ask that this honorable body review this information and consider it objectively and without prejudice, and not based on opinions, but based on the facts. And with that, happy holidays. Thank you again for giving us this time.
Can someone? This is kind of fun this way. Yeah. Thank you, whoever that was that turned on the lights. And thank you, Mr. Daniele, for your presentation. I do want to just, I want to just clarify one thing, because I heard a couple times something that I just want to make clear. Stantec is the town's engineering firm. Stantec did not prepare this document. The Synchro Stantec, although it is my understanding that your engineers did, consult, talk with Stantec, I want to make very clear that the presentation and the materials you just saw are presented on behalf of the applicant and are not presented in any way on behalf of the town, or that Stantec was involved in the preparation of those documents. We do look forward to giving these documents a very thorough review, both myself and my colleagues here on the board, as well as our staff and Stantec. We will do that at the appropriate time, as we did on the first cycle through. We'll now continue with the open forum. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board. My name is Charles Malcolm from Hodgson Russ, and I represent Save Monroe Avenue. I just want to start out by maybe expressing a little bit of disappointment with the board with respect to the public notice. I found out about this through members of our group just today. We did not have an opportunity to review the SDEIS that was not placed on the website. And it's clear that there's been a lot of public engagement on this project, specifically with respect to the traffic impacts and issues. And we just had a lengthy presentation from Mr. Daniele, provided a lot of information, and it would have been helpful, at least in our view, if members of the public would have been aware that this was going on and they could have come and reviewed it, and we would have had an opportunity
And I'd just
to have
like
our
to,
engineer.
I do want to stop you right there.
Okay,
This is not a public hearing.
that's correct.
This document was just recently submitted. The Danieles did call and ask to speak at the open forum. There will be an extended period. We will be taking the seeker period for us to read it, for you to read it. And I can't say strongly enough, this board is committed to public participation. We will give you and whoever your client is that you have chosen to keep, within your own confidence, and that is your right. You and your clients will have the full statutory period of time to engage in a review of this document. So I understand it's a big document, but just so the public understands, there's no funny business here.
Mr. Supervisor, I did not mean to
and I think
imply
it's
that there was any
important.
funny business, and there is no question that the board and the town is not required to publish the notice, and this is not a public hearing. But it's been my experience, and it's the reputation of the town of Brighton, that they go the extra mile with respect to public involvement. And so for a meeting like this, where you have a developer coming in, making a presentation that was on the agenda, it would have been nice, not required, but would have been nice if we could have had some notice so that the public could have come. We had public hearings, the crowd was stacked.
And
we have a big presentation by the developer, and we don't have a lot of people here today. So that's all I'm expressing.
Counselor,
Yes, sir.
we, as I did say just a moment ago, we just were advised by the developer that they would like to make a presentation. Yes, it is absolutely a part of our tradition of open government that we do allow people to come in and make a presentation. This was on the agenda that we would be receiving and filing it. And we publish that agenda. We get it out as quickly as we can. I did allude to some particular challenges to this meeting. But I think I'd like to hear your presentation, if you would, please.
Yes, sir. And again, I would just say that I'd like to, first of all, congratulate the board on saying here tonight that there is going to be a lengthy public comment period where everyone has the opportunity to review.
Public review
there will
period.
be a public review period, and there will be a public hearing on the
If
supplemental draft
this
environmental impact statement.
there will be if the board finds that this document is complete and adequate for a public hearing. If it is not, and you'll recall that the first cycle through, the board looked at an initial DEIS,
Yes.
rejected it as not being complete. And if this document is not complete, we'll do the same thing.
And that brings me to, my main point of what I wanted to ask of the board tonight, which is, we've had this submission. It's lengthy, it's detailed, it's comprehensive. It's going to require expert analysis. And I appreciate the supervisor's clarification with respect to Stantec's role, because now Stantec is in the position that they have to do a critical analysis on the sufficiency of the traffic study and make a recommendation to the town board. And we would ask that during that process that the public have an opportunity, before the board accepts the supplemental draft environmental impact statement as adequate for public review, to be able to see Stantec's critical review and comment. Because we want to, we're not, everybody says, well, these are opponent groups, these are opponent groups. This is the community, and we want to make sure there's a good development there. Okay, nobody has said we're opposed to all development. So we'd like to be a participant in this process. And we've sent letters to the board. We've asked in July for a traffic day where everyone could get together and discuss the impacts. Back in October, on behalf of our group, we submitted a letter with respect to the supplemental draft environmental impact statement and the things that we had raised on the draft environmental impact statement and the things that we thought this would be a good opportunity for the developer to clear up some of the other issues. And I noticed that you said that that was the what was in the document. I haven't had a chance to thoroughly review it. But what we would like to do is have the opportunity to review Stantec's review before the board accepts it as adequate for public review and starts the public comment period, because that's what happened last time. We had a situation where the traffic study was submitted. During that time, Stantec was kind of, it's not perfect, but we'll let it go through. And then they had to do a redo.
You're putting words in the mouth of our professional advisors.
I think that it wasn't perfect as a direct quote from the letter that they submitted, but I can double check that. But all we're asking for, Mr. Supervisor.
And again, Council, and I don't mean for this to become an adversarial back and forth, but I think it's important that the public understands, and particularly that the public understands what this process is. This will be a public hearing on a draft environmental impact statement. It is not a and we had made this statement very clear the last time around. This is not a public hearing on a consultant's report. It is a public hearing on a draft environmental impact statement, or in this case, a supplemental draft environmental impact statement. And it is very clear under seeker, as I know you know, that the standard for whether a draft environmental impact statement should be the subject of a public hearing is not whether it's perfect.
That's absolutely right.
It is whether it is complete and adequate is the standard for public review. So
that
again,
absolutely is correct, Mr. Supervisor.
And I don't mean to be
I would say
confrontational. I don't mean to be confrontational, but I think it's important that the public understands we're trying to be as open but as accurate as you're trying to be an advocate, and I'm sure you do a very good job of that.
I appreciate
We are
that.
trying to make sure that our public, our residents, understand what the standards are and then have the full time to review what admittedly is a lengthy and in large part very technical document.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, and I agree that the standard for adequacy is not perfection. I totally agree with that. But it has to be adequate to the point where the public can provide meaningful comment.
Correct.
Okay? And in the last instance, we had a circumstance where the underlying baseline data of the report discussing the most significant impact of the project was accepted as adequate when there were some concerns about it. And that was addressed in the supplemental process. And I'm just advocating and asking if the board would consider allowing the public to review the DEIS and Stantec's comments before the board a second time accepts this traffic impact study as adequate for public review, so that we can avoid the same sort of scenario that we had before. And I understand Mr. Daniele made the presentation and Stantec was involved in the DOT, but we need to verify that, and Stantec, as you said,
was
had to
not
verify
involved. Stantec did not prepare this presentation. Let me make that very clear.
that. I didn't mean to imply that.
It's exactly what you just
Stantec was
stated.
involved in consulting with the developer for purposes of preparing their
Stantec
study.
answered, again, I don't want to put words in Stantec's mouth. and I think, we will hear, but what I am absolutely confident is that Stantec is the town's consultant. They are not the applicant's consultant. To the extent that there was dialogue and questions is no more problematic than if I had dialogue or conversations with your partner or with counsel or with the applicant or with some of your yet-to-be-named clients. So
We're very
to the
concerned about
extent
who the
that
clients
you're-
are.
to
We
the
submitted
extent-
petitions as to who the business people
To the extent that you
are.
have continued to suggest,
Let's focus on the impacts.
I agree.
That's what we'd like to do.
Perfect.
And, I'm not up here attacking Stantec. What we want is we want to have a critical analysis of the developer's traffic impact study and an opportunity to comment on the adequacy so that we can make sure that the comment period is meaningful and that
I've
the
heard your
public has an
request.
opportunity to have meaningful public comment. And I'll just conclude with this, that all the other issues that we had raised in our October 28th letter with respect to the supplemental impact statement, the other deficiencies that were identified in our comments on the DEIS, we look forward to reviewing this document to see if those things have been addressed. And we still would like the board to consider sending this through the regular zoning process based on the insufficiency of the amenities that were proposed with the incentive zoning application. And we think that this review is important in the seeker process because right now they're relying on these so-called amenities as part of the seeker mitigation, which is something that the board needs to focus on at this time. And I thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Is there anyone else that would like to address? Absolutely. Come on up.
Good evening, Supervisor Maley, members of the town board. Robert Brenner from the law firm Nixon Peabody, 1300 Clinton Square here in Rochester. We agree with the approach that the supervisor outlined about receipt of the SDEIS documents. What we would ask, as the prior speaker had indicated, that you furnish a copy of the Stantec report once they review these documents to Bob and I, so we can circulate it to our traffic consultant prior to the public hearings that might be scheduled. And we'd appreciate it if you could get it to us more than just a few days in advance, so we have a few days more than we did last time to review the Stantec comments before we attend the public hearing and we can inform our clients. The other comment that I wanted to raise is just to reiterate again that we think this project is more appropriate to go under the regular traditional zoning framework that's in place here in the town. We think the town has a very thoughtful zoning ordinance, and if it goes through that process, the project will be right-sized and appropriate for this corridor along Monroe Avenue. We don't think incentive zoning is appropriate given the sensitivity of the area and the comprehensiveness of the Brighton zoning code and its application to this project. The third thing I wanted to mention is in Mr. Daniele's presentation, there was no discussion this evening of what we've referred to based on the neighbors that we represent in the neighborhoods in the rear. There was no discussion about keeping those quote-unquote rear access points closed. I just want to reiterate again that those rear access points being closed and not dumping traffic into residential neighborhoods from this commercial development is critical and key to the neighbors that we represent in those communities. The last thing I wanted to mention this evening is Mr. Daniele made reference to the DOT being involved in the process of preparing the SDEIS documents. We quickly combed through the materials that were submitted and didn't see any documentation or correspondence from the DOT in the packet. We'd ask that any correspondence that the developer has be furnished to the town and Bob and I so we can review, and we'll also be checking with the DOT just to find out what the nature of those discussions were and if they concur with the data. Also, I noticed the synchro model that was put up shows at the proposed traffic signal, it still shows access across the other side of Monroe Avenue. I don't know if that's in connection with the proposed cross-access easements, but just want to be sure that the board and Stantec are mindful of that signal placement and any potential cross-access easement issues that may be in play. We haven't seen any documentation on that front. And we also saw a few pictures showing that the existing traffic conditions, quote-unquote, work based on the signal timing that's been corrected. But the question looms, what happens when this significant development goes in on a parcel that currently has no activity on it? what will those photos look like that we saw tonight, and what will be the impact on queuing in the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? Again, I would note that we do have a public hearing later on the proposed vape law, so folks that are here for that will have an opportunity to speak on that during the open forum, during that public hearing. Mr. Gold?
I did not intend to speak this evening. My name is Jerry Goldman. I reside at 59 Branchwood Lane in the town of Brighton. As I did with Mr. Spitzer, I want to welcome Mr. Malcolm to Rochester. He is an attorney practicing in Buffalo, New York with, as the supervisor pointed out, an undisclosed set of clients and certainly an undisclosed financier of a substantial effort which has gone on, including robocalls, including other efforts, which personally, as a resident, I found problematic in getting phone calls at my house at strange hours. But with regard to the process, I think the town's process is a process of integrity and a process of transparency. You have allowed people to speak on at the public forum, and we're doing that again tonight. The town goes even further with regard to that by having the YouTube channel, having it streamed, having these available. So no one is disenfranchised from the ability to see the presentation which was made tonight. But as the supervisor rightly points out, this presentation will be replicated to some degree during any public hearing on the SEIS, whether it is this or a modified SEIS, which is ultimately accepted by the town. The efforts to try to infuse themselves into the town's process of review of this SEIS is unprecedented. I have not been involved in any circumstance in any of these environmental reviews where the internal reviews by the town's consultant are shared with the apparent effort to scrutinize the effort of the town's consultant before the town takes action on the acceptance of the document. The acceptance of the document is complete, commences the public comment period. It is not the middle of that public comment period. So to that extent, we believe that the town should be in a position where they take a look at the document, they engage their consultants, they get the information from their consultants and make their determination. Then at that point, they get the information out to the public, and the public does go. As a matter of fact, the town has done something which is relatively unprecedented already, to the extent of its review when the document came in for its review, to put it out for review and put it up on the website. I want to clarify one other thing. The SEIS was not done because of supposed deficiencies in the process that was done before. The SEIS was primarily done because of the malfunction of the light, because of the issues that we had with the information that we got from State DOT. And as a result of that, that is why we went back and took a look. That is why the signal timing got adjusted. That is why everything got reviewed one more time. With regard to the question of conventional zoning and incentive zoning, the fact of the matter is this town has operated successfully utilizing incentive zoning as a tool to analyze. As the supervisor pointed out, there is no final decision which has been made relative to this. I think the incentive zoning process and the integrity of that process has been upheld over and over again in this town. So we would like to see the town continue its long tradition and at the same time consider this application as presented. As pointed out, the State DOT was not involved in the preparation of these documents. State Stantec was not involved, the town was not involved. This is a traffic analysis prepared by the developer. Contact with State DOT was primarily oral, and to that extent, we don't think this is a time for legal discovery of what's gone on between an applicant and any reviewing agency. There are vehicles which the attorneys know can be implemented in order to do that. As I said, I had no intention to speak. It's just that I'm frankly, tired personally of some of the blustering that's gone on relative to it, and I applaud the supervisor for trying to keep all that under control. And with that, I wish Mr. Malcolm safe travel back to Buffalo, no matter what the weather may be at this point. So, thank you. There's something wrong with driving back and forth to Buffalo.
I do, though, want to, I think it's important to note, Mr. Goldman, that, you're certainly correct. One of the factors that led to the, analysis that a supplemental was needed, you've talked about you've described what you consider to be a whole, several deficiencies. I would just note again that we made clear that the scope of the supplemental would be derived from the original scope, albeit directed at transportation-related issues. But I would also note that we also gave direction, and I know you have done this, and it is a long document, and I will be looking forward to reading those as well as council did. But we did specifically direct that that responses be included to comments, because we did note that there was a large number of comments made to this document, and that it was important to to address those as part of the supplemental.
Which again is unprecedented and is something that the town, in its thoroughness and wanting to engage the public comment, has taken that extra step. As we know, as everyone in the front row who certainly is familiar with seeker knows, and everyone on the board, typically the responses to comments come as part of the final environmental impact statement. They aren't typically a part of a supplemental environmental impact statement. The supplemental impact statement in this case contains the revised traffic report, which is primarily based upon, and a lot of our problems, frankly, were based upon the signal timing. For those who have driven through this corridor, which I do on a daily basis, you can notice a difference when you have the signal timing differences. It's substantially different going through there, and I think that when we have the full presentation on this, and if people are aware of their surroundings as they go through that corridor, they'll understand how this works far better with the timing as it was supposed to be when the state made the changes on Monroe Avenue. So to that extent, I think the board should be applauded for their process. We look forward to an expedited review of the completeness and coming back to the board and continuing the environmental process, and at the conclusion of that, hopefully continuing with the incentive zoning process expeditiously.
And again, not to be argumentative with anybody tonight, but I did note the use of the word expedited, and we are going to take the time necessary to review this lengthy document.
I said expeditious.
Oh, okay.
I did not say expedited. And there's a difference. And I think you know. And I think you know the
maybe my ear heard the wrong word, but I just want to make it clear.
Difference. But I said
because this will take.
Oh, I'm not asking for anything speedier, but we certainly are hoping for an expeditious review of the document. Thank you.
We will certainly give it a thorough review.
Great, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board on any matter during the open forum tonight?
I hate to be the only lawyer in the room that doesn't say anything, but I'll be under 30 seconds. Look, my group wants a properly sized project. We've talked about that right from the beginning. We are here only, truly, to try to get the right sized project. All the other nonsense, we don't care about. We do care about the back entrances being closed. It's very, very important to us. And I'll note this about the secret process right now. Mr. Goldman, if I understood right, don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think what he was saying is that, and we haven't had a chance to look at the EIS yet, that it's only going to deal with the traffic's huge, but there's a lot more than that. And there's a lot more that was raised. There's all the public comment. There were the things missing from the original scope that we've reiterated over and over again. When we go through the EIS, we hope all of that has been addressed. We want it to be addressed. We want to move on. We want to get to the right size project. If that's not in there, if they've only dealt with the traffic issue, which again is huge, but if they've ignored all those other issues, disappointing to us as well, we would hope the board would deem that incomplete and tell them to go finish this EIS so we can move on. So our hope is that it is complete. But if that stuff is missing, if all the comments the board raised, you had some very good comments that you raised as part of the public comment process, we hope those have all been addressed. The public raised a lot of good comments. We hope those have all been addressed. But what I think I heard was we're only going to see traffic. And that would be very disappointing. And if that is the case, we hope the town will deem it incomplete and send the developer back to finally finish this EIS properly. Thank you.
Before Mr. Goldman speaks,
Ken?
I just want to let the board know, as you're listening to this dialogue go back and forth, that the action that you're going to be asked to take later on the agenda is simply to receive and file this document. It is not to make any determination this evening as to its completeness or adequacy for public comment. There will be a time period that will come sometime at a future meeting, but it's not tonight. And so we really don't need to be making a decision tonight as to whether this document is complete or adequate. And we will have, I'm sure, an open forum at the meeting where we are going to be making that decision for the advocates to come back before you and make their presentation so that they can tell us what they think. And you'll have the opportunity to consider that before you make your decision at that future meeting.
As well as any open forum between now and then?
Absolutely.
Correct. My comments will be brief, only to the extent that there was a specific charge when the board required the SEIS, and that is what we followed, and that's what we intend to follow. So that's what the document provides, and we'll leave it to the review of all the agencies and of this board to determine its completeness and adequacy.
Thank you. Is there anyone that has not spoken already that would like to address the board? Is there anyone else that would like to address the board in the open forum? Hearing none, we will continue on with our meeting tonight. Thank you to everybody that spoke. I certainly look forward to hearing from you and from the public on this matter. I don't believe we got any material submitted unless any of the people who spoke tonight have written comments they would like to submit. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeMonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Can I have a motion to approve and file the meeting minutes of the town board meetings held on November 9th and November 22nd, 2016?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on those? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeMonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. We now will begin the one public hearing. This is a public hearing on the proposed e-cigarette and/or vapor sales local law. I want to ask the town clerk if the necessary legal notice has been published in this matter.
Notice published in the Brighton Pittsburgh Post.
Thank you. I then declare this public hearing to be open. And I would ask if there are members of the audience that would like to address the board on this public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to speak to the board? Yes, doctor. Come on. Either one of you, sure.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Dr. Miller. I'm a preventive medicine resident at the University of Rochester.
Can you give your first name as well?
Dr.
please?
Shoshana Miller.
Thank you.
The Department of Public Health Sciences prepared a handout with some literature on e-cigarettes, and if it's okay, would like to present that to the board. And
And we will include that in the record of the public hearing. Thank you, Dr. Miller.
includes the most recent Surgeon General's report. He commented on e-cigarettes and the impact of youth. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during this public hearing?
Supervisor, it may be advisable just to have the local law briefly described either by yourself or Commissioner Keefe, just for part of it, for the purposes
Sure.
of the public record.
We can, sorry, I'm passing documents as we are doing this. Thank you. Is that mine? Yeah.
Same,
Okay.
But I
Well,
don't
that's
have
better
it.
than not having.
but I don't have what you have.
Okay.
Second.
This proposed local law would amend chapters 202 and 222 of the town code. Chapter 202 is the current adult use establishment provision of our code, and I apologize for leaving you up there at the
No, it's
podium
fine.
for a moment. This local law would include e-cigarette and/or vapor sale establishments as adult use facilities subject to the same regulations as other adult use activities. As such, new vapor sales stores would be allowed to open only in the light industrial zoning districts as defined under the town codes. It would also, in a manner similar to other adult establishments, would establish distances from other types of uses, including residential zoning districts and residential uses. A 500 feet buffer from those, a 500-foot buffer from churches, schools, daycare facilities, other parks and playgrounds. Could not be established on the same parcel as another e-cigarette or adult use facility, or within 1,000 feet of another such facility. And it would also establish an amortization or termination of existing vapor and e-cigarette facilities that are not located in the light industrial zone. As was brought to the attention of the town board by concern about actually a retail facility that has since closed. There are retail establishments currently located in the town of Brighton in other zoning districts that are selling e-cigarettes or vapor devices. And under the provisions of this law, pre-existing non-conforming facilities that are currently selling e-cigarettes would be terminated. Their right to do so would be terminated on January 1, 2022, or a little over 5 years from the date hereof. So that, my apologies, but that is a summary of some of the substantive provisions of the law. Now, if you'd like to address us, thank you.
Good evening, Supervisor and the Board. My name is Lexi Popovich. I'm from the Smoking and Health Action Coalition, 1595 Elmwood Avenue. So I'd like to, first of all, thank you guys for having progress on the issue of e-cigarettes in the town of Brighton. And in relation to the adoption of the local law to amend the Town Code Chapters 202 and 222-15 for the regulation and control of e-cigarette and or vapor sale establishments, we request that this legislative action also include tobacco and nicotine as a language alongside of the e-cigarette and vape shops. The opportunity for Brighton to reduce the number of future vape retailers will be productive for the quality of life and the character of the town, but with the concrete evidence regarding tobacco use and influence on youth, it would be beneficial to include tobacco and nicotine within this legislation, because limiting vape shops and e-cigarettes alone will only target one of the problems. With more research and data and information surrounding the negative implications of cigarette and tobacco use, especially use with young adults, I think it is necessary to reduce the density of future tobacco retailers as well. From a policy standpoint, failing to include this language could be detrimental to the goals that are outlined in the legislation regarding the benefits of the town and the externalities this law hopes to prevent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tom Supervisor and the board. My name is Joe Potter. I work at the Smoking and Health Action Coalition along with Lexi, and I'm the Reality Check Youth Coordinator. So I work with kids within our community. A key finding in the 2016 Surgeon General's report was e-cigarettes are the most common type of tobacco products used among youth and young adults. Use of e-cigs is associated with the use of traditional cigarettes and other tobacco products. So that being said, people who use e-cigs oftentimes also use traditional cigarettes. So we think it'd be beneficial to include tobacco in this legislation, not just e-cigarettes. Also with kids working in schools with health classes and different youth groups, students have said kids oftentimes use e-cigs in school, and then outside of school they smoke a traditional cigarette. So we really just want to put the point in that including the tobacco in this legislation would be great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, I'm sorry, you had wanted to speak early. Come on up.
So my name is Annalisa Rogers. I also work at the Smoking and Health Action Coalition, and I've kind of been with you guys since the start of this in May. And so I've had an opportunity to really look at the legislation, and I echo the sentiment of both Lexi as well as Joe in regards to some changes to the language. In your zoning change, you're really looking to eliminate e-cigarettes and liquid sales outside of the light industrial zone starting on January 1st. Your stated reasons, as Lexi so eloquently stated, was to promote health and restrict minors' access to goods intended for adult use. But one of the things, or a few of the things that I must point out, is that combustible tobacco products remain the greatest preventable cause of death. That tobacco marketing, including e-cigarette marketing, but not exclusive to it, plays a significant role in recruiting new users who start at an average age of 13 in New York State. Also, that reducing youth and adult exposure to tobacco retail marketing will reduce youth tobacco initiation and support cessation attempts by those who are trying to quit. Therefore, restricting the location of businesses selling e-cigs is a good step, but a better step would be to restrict the location of all tobacco sales. So stronger language that could be incorporated into the policy may say something to the effect that tobacco product means any product made or derived from tobacco or which contains nicotine marketed or sold for human consumption, whether consumption occurs through inhalation, oral, or dermal absorption. Tobacco product does not include drugs, devices, or combination products authorized for sale by the state or U.S. Food and Drug Administration, as those terms are defined in the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. And some of the reasons why we really think that we should really look at the language of this legislation is for a few reasons. The most recent Surgeon General's report has really illustrated the harmfulness of e-cigs, but also the importance of continuing to move further and push the issue of traditional tobacco marketing, simply because it is a major concern, and it is one of the major ways that youth are still finding their way into utilizing tobacco products. In October 5th, I believe it was, we also had a legislative hearing that really talked about tobacco sales. And when you listen to the community professionals talk about and discuss this product, it wasn't just e-cigs. It was a combination of e-cigs as well as tobacco products and what happens at the point of sale, and that it is still a major problem with youth engagement. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that recently Governor Cuomo had vetoed the Senate Bill 6003 because he felt that focusing on e-cigs as a standalone policy would undermine efforts that reduce the impact of traditional tobacco products. So in conclusion, to better promote public health and restrict minors' access to items that are associated with adult use, the language/definition of tobacco products should be changed to include a definition like the one I stated earlier. So reworking the definition and/or expanding would be a better protective measure just to prevent youth from engaging in the next big thing. So that's just my statement, and I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing with the e-cig policy. Thank you, Supervisor Maley and board.
Thank you very much.
I also have some information for you guys that I will leave here, as well as my comment.
Would you like that all to be included in the record of the public hearing?
My comment, yes. This is just for your reading pleasure.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during this public hearing? Board members, you will have certainly an opportunity to share comments that you have after we close the public hearing and have discussion.
Could we just have a moment?
Absolutely. I do want to note, by the way, that there is the planning board has reviewed and has commented on this proposed local law, where there is a proposed negative declaration under seeker, and all those are included as part of this matter. Are there any other comments from the audience during this public hearing? Judy?
Judy Schwartz, 179 Ashbourne Road. I wrote something up, left it at home, whatever, but it was short. But I did have some questions. One, is there a legal reason for waiting until 2022, or can it be sooner?
There is, and amortization is something that has been upheld in regard to a number of different uses that communities have found to be, problematic to health, safety, and welfare. Billboards are one, junkyards are another. But typically, a period of time is allowed to give existing businesses the opportunity to, and the law requires this, to earn a reasonable return on the investment that they may have had. And so that's the thinking here. I would, there can be I understand your concern, but it
A lot
is
can happen in
important to
5
allow,
years, yeah.
it is important under the law to allow an opportunity.
And when that time comes, I'm assuming you seem to be aware of stores now that have this equipment or whatever you want to call it. I want to say
We're aware of
paraphernalia.
some. I don't know whether our knowledge is exhaustive.
So then how will there be enforcement or finding out if indeed they have adhered to the new law?
I would anticipate the same way that we enforce existing provisions of our code. We receive complaints from people. We would investigate them. We might well identify something proactively as well.
Okay.
Supervisor, if I may, and I did want to just supplement your comments in response to Ms. Schwartz. I think it's in your interest here, if you do pass and adopt this law tonight, to make sure that it is enforceable, that it will be a law that would be upheld in court. And so the idea here is that we don't want to open up the local law that you're adopting, if you do choose to adopt it, to a challenge of constitutional infirmity. When you put a new law on the books that prohibits conduct, it has an economic impact on those businesses, and it would potentially be an argument that a business could make that if you don't give them an adequate amount of time, as the supervisor was saying, to earn out their investment, that there would be an unconstitutional taking of their very property, a violation of the Due Process Clause. And so that's the constitutional infirmity you're looking to avoid here. So when you adopt the law, you want it to be enforceable. You want it to be something that the public and the community and you as the board can rely on going forward. The only other additional comment I wanted to make was, in addition to the documents referred to in the resolution, which include, as the supervisor indicated, the negative declaration and the advisory report by the planning board, which are being received and filed and are made part of the public record. There is also a memorandum and comments from the Monroe County Department of Planning and Development dated December 6th, 2016, which is also part of the Public Works file on this. That has also been received. It should be made part of the public record and also received and filed as part of tonight's public hearing.
And that, of course, is another prerequisite to adoption of the law this time. Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Can I have a motion to take action on this proposed local law, and that will give you, the board members, the opportunity for discussion?
Yes, Bill, with respect to the proposed e-cigarette and/or vapor sales local law, I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second, okay. Yeah, good.
Who got in first?
No, that's good. That's fine. Chris?
Thank you.
And I would only ask Mr. DePonzio and was it Mr. Werner who seconded?
Yes.
If they would accept the friendly amendment that it would include the receipt and filing of the Department of Planning and Development County report from dated December 6, 2016.
Yes, I would accept that.
Yes, that's acceptable.
Let's report this.
And I think we've already indicated, yes, any written comments received are deemed received and filed. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Are we going to be considering the request about adding cigarettes to this law?
Now would be the time to consider that if you want to discuss that.
What?
I said now would be the time to discuss that if you wish.
That's what I just asked. I'm asking if
Now would,
okay.
if you'd like to.
I think we should consider it, but I don't know if that's enforceable. I mean, cigarettes aren't particularly illegal after the age of, I mean, kids can't go in and buy it, but can we just say in the town of Brighton, you cannot buy cigarettes?
That's not what, certainly not what this law currently states with respect to e-cigarettes.
Well,
I think, Councilman Navarros, what you're asking is, would it be possible to change this law so that it would also apply to tobacco products, so that those tobacco product sales would be restricted to light industrial zones?
And I think that's a good question. I think that the genesis of this local law came about with the opening of an establishment that exclusively sold vapor products over on Monroe Avenue, very close to a residential neighborhood, sort of in a neighborhood business type area. And the concern was that there was really no regulations like there were for traditional tobacco cigarettes imposed by the state or federal government. That then I think in the interim, that regulations were proposed, but then litigation started, and then with injunctions, and then who knows about the enforceability. That sort of gave us the impetus to take it on ourselves to put some regulations in there, at least to the location, while the state and the federal governments kind of iron this all out. My thought is I wouldn't want to see this get derailed, but what I'm wondering is if perhaps we can get this enacted and then consider perhaps amending this down the road if in fact we wanted to expand the scope in order to include tobacco products at a later date.
And if I may comment on that process, that would seem appropriate if it was the board's pleasure tonight to try to amend the local law to add tobacco products. It would be my opinion that we would need to send that back to the planning board for their further advisory report. We would need to send it back to county planning for a further letter. And we might even need to renotice this public hearing because it would affect a greater number of businesses and a different number of businesses.
Whether or not we were legally required to, I would certainly feel
it
strongly
would be
that
a
it's-
close call as to whether we were legally required to.
I think it would be a significant change,
But
as you
again,
said in the
right, it would be a potentially significant change, and again, with the idea being that whatever we enact, I want to make sure that it's good and enforceable and not challengeable. So I think Councilman DePonzio's suggestion of going forward with this and then maybe going back to committee and looking at a tobacco sale restriction might make some sense.
I would note that we do currently, engage in underage tobacco checks through the police department. That's been an active, long-standing program. Certainly, too, one of the thoughts, one of the concerns, Jason, you pointed out very clearly the concern that the neighborhood had about the proximity to the residential areas. This, what we've certainly seen is rapid growth in this new, delivery vehicle. It's particularly been, certainly what I've seen with younger smokers, and I think we've felt, and I certainly believe that it is with this new product, that it's very important that we engage as quickly as possible in permitted land use driven regulation to be able to get to the points that were raised in the community. I do see we have, you would like to make a comment, and I understand that. The public hearing has been closed, but we do routinely allow, within reason, we allow, continued comment. So if you'd like to address the board, you may. I just want you to understand it will not be a part of the record of the public hearing.
I just want to say, again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this. And yes, I agree with Councilmember DePonzio, and I understand that there is going to have to be a period of time where you have to go back and research. My only thought and suggestion is to consider it. And while there are rules that say that children and youth under the age of 18 can't purchase, they're still accessing that product. So because your terminology is adult use, and since technically 18 years of age and older is adult use, if you would consider then to say that tobacco products and the change in definition as something that would be placed in the industrial areas as something that is meant specifically for adult use, that would be appreciated. It would go far for protecting the next generation of youth from becoming the next long-term tobacco users.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much again.
As much as I'd like to see tobacco use banned, and I'd like to see guns banned too in the town of Brighton, I don't think it's realistic. People are going to access them and bring all of these harmful substances and devices into our town. But in looking at this law, I actually expressed a very conservative view, I think, in some sense, to the idea, are we just overreacting? That e-cigarettes are just a new thing and I'm an old man. And it's just something that I've just better get used to. But the supervisor pointed out something to me. He said, Chris, he says, maybe you're right. Maybe we are of another generation. We just don't appreciate what the new trends are. But the reality is that this is a dangerous product, I believe. E-cigarettes are, and they are used for other purposes. I'm surprised to see that they can be used to ingest alcohol. I wasn't aware of that. But at the same time, the supervisor said, those other things, alcohol and tobacco, as harmful as they are, this is different to the extent that we can do something about this by banning this before it's proliferated throughout the town. That we have it in just a few outlets at this point right now, and it's time to stop it and restrict it. And I think we can effectively have an impact on that. As far as broadening it to tobacco use in general, it's something I'm willing to consider, and we can look at it more broadly. But I think Councilman DePonzio put it right to the extent I don't want to derail this effort now, and that's why I would favor the passage of this legislation.
Yeah, and in comment, Louise, I absolutely agree with you. I like to see the tobacco restricted as well, but we're focused on something very important here that like you said, Chris, I don't want to see it derailed. I think we need to move ahead on this and get it located and with the restrictions that we have in mind through this proposed law. So.
Well, I agree with that. I was just saying that if we say we will do that in the future, sometimes that future becomes further and further away, or we get very intent on something else and it takes too long. And I think that the doctors that spoke are accurate in saying that this is a problem that's been around for generations, and we want to at some point make it more difficult for the youth to get hooked on cigarettes, and in any way that we can, and this would be a way that we could. But I agree that we should not derail this at this time. If it would be too cumbersome to try to get the tobacco into this law right now. I mean, it would take another few months, I'm sure, at least. So yes, I agree that we should get this law on the books.
All right.
Any other discussion on the part of the board? Hearing none, Dan, can you please call the roll on the motion to approve the proposed e-cigarette and/or vapor sales local law of the town of Brighton?
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye, and I want to thank, obviously, my colleagues on the board for giving us a lot of time. We didn't mention the various committee meetings that have been held, but I also want to commend the residents and the health advocates and physicians that we have heard. We always appreciate input on important matters when we consider them. So thank you, everybody, for your engagement in this process. We now have communications. Can I have a motion to receive and file? I really don't want to receive and file either one of these communications.
Don't either.
But can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Regrettably.
Second.
We have
Boy.
2 employees of the town who have been with us for quite a period of time, who for different reasons have sent us letters advising us that they are no longer going to be employees. One is Tanya Johnson. Tanya is a part-time clerk in the town clerk's office, and we have comment sheets that the public can use. And I know, I can safely say that with all of the great employees that I know work hard to give good public service, Tanya, of the comment sheets that I have received, is mentioned more often than anybody else in thanks and praise for the service that she gave them. So we congratulate Tanya. She's going to be taking a full-time job where she will continue to be engaged in government service and maybe can be a role model for another agency that's not always known for customer service in her new job. But Tanya, we do wish you well. Her last day will be December 23rd. And then there's Mark Criddle. And Mark has been with the town for 32 years. Mark, his position as a recreation attendant is one, just doesn't, you know, the work that Mark does. And I'll just point out one thing. Mark has been for years and years and years the go-to person for Eagle Scouts looking to do community service projects in Brighton in our park system. And year in and year out, Mark is working with a couple of Eagle Scouts on projects that not only help that young man get their Eagle Scout award, and I don't know if the Girl Scouts have other programs. I don't know whether Mark has worked with Girl Scouts as well, but they've also been beneficial to our community, to our parks. Mark, we joke about not ever letting him retire, and I haven't changed my position on that, but I guess we have to, because he has served us well. Both Mark and Tanya has served us so well. Just the other day, you know, Mark, our Pearl Harbor Day veterans event. Mark is there, as are, others, Rich Wagner, who really is behind it, but, the other attendants chip in to make that a successful event. Mark is one of those employees, both Tanya and Mark are. I don't think either one of them know the word no. You know, if you want them to do something, they do it. And they do it well, and we're going to miss them both. But Mark is after 32 years, yep, I can't say no if he wants to retire. So Mark will be retiring effective December 30th, and we wish them both very, very well. Can I have a motion to receive and file these 2 communications? We have a motion. Can I have, there's Dan.
I'd just like to say that every time I walk into town hall to go see if I have any mail or for whatever reason, and I look down towards the clerk's office, I get a wave and a smile from Tanya. Absolutely. She's so sweet, and I'm really going to miss her. She's a bright light in this place. One of the bright lights in this place.
I figured to me if I stepped out on both of these fronts with some sort of act of civil disobedience by refusing to perform my duties of calling a roll on this, maybe we would not accept those and be able to stop both of these folks from leaving us. But Councilmember Vogel.
Aye.
Councilmember Novros.
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
With regret, aye. Committee reports. Community Services Committee. Chris?
Bill, our next Community Services meeting will be next Wednesday, the 21st. I've got some announcements from the Rec Department that the winter-spring brochures will be delivered to our homes the week of the 19th, so that's next week. And resident registration for those winter programs and such starts on January 3rd. Non-resident registration begins on the 10th. Also, those same brochures are available online at Town Hall, the library, or in the school district buildings. December recess camp will be taking place during the school break. It's for children in grades 1 through 5 and goes from 8:45 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. And registration is available online or in person, and go to the town's website at www.townofbrighton.org/rec. Our fall programs are now finishing up, and we hope you'll join us again next fall, but more so, we hope that you'll join us in 2017. So as I say, next meeting for community service is December 21st at 9:30 at the Brookside Center.
Can I add something to his
Sure.
report? Two things. First of all, I was talking to Becky Cotter about if the rec department could use any greeting cards. I have
Louise, is this from the community services meeting, or is this
Well,
something that we should do at the town board members' report at the end? Because this is really
Okay.
intended to be the report of a
So let me just tell you that the clean sweep date will be May 13th, 2017.
Thanks, and we'll get to what I think sounds like a real good
Yeah.
thing when we have matters of the town board at the end. Finance and Administrative Services, Jason.
Yes, Finance Administrative Services met on December 7th, and each of the items that were discussed at the meeting are present on tonight's agenda, with the exception of a couple of items. First was a budget transfer from the Highway Department. FAST Committee discussed a request to transfer $123,500 within the Highway Fund to purchase a replacement brush truck. That there is a brush truck that did have a mechanical fire that's been giving some trouble. We reviewed it during our CIP process last summer, and the FAST recommended that we not make that budget transfer at this time. Instead, we'll definitely take a hard look at that, as we always do during the CIP process that'll start before we know it next summer. The other item that was discussed was also we had a representative from Paris Kerwin talking about adding cybersecurity insurance to the town's current commercial insurance coverage. And it was determined that we would send that to our risk management consultant to give us further information if that would be an appropriate coverage to add to our existing commercial lines. The next meeting of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee will be next Tuesday, December 20th. We will start at 3:30 in the afternoon in the Stage Conference Room here at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Louise, I'm sorry, yeah, I was looking in that direction, trying to talk in that direction. Suzanne, will we have some guidance at our next FASC meeting? Great, thank you. Public Safety, Louise.
Public Safety met this last Tuesday morning. The summary of the meeting was Brighton Ambulance has had 474 runs for November, and they've had some interior promotions. Brighton Fire has had 2,282 calls year to date, which is down about 150 calls from last year, and their new fire engine has been delivered. Brighton Police, there are 2 new hires, which were introduced to us tonight, and we were told about them at the meeting. Old business. Update on the special events. Captain Klein told us that he reached out to West Brighton people about the Chase Corporate Challenge, and that everything seems to be under control for that. The Holloway Road speed limit it was passed, and the signs are going to be posted as soon as possible. Do you have a date?
Not at the moment, Louise. We, as I said at the meeting, signs have been and are being fabricated, and as soon as we get through our fall leaf collection and we get a chance, we will be installing those signs within the neighborhood. As you may recall from previous conversations, those have to be posted on a linear basis because the state has not given us the ability to do an area-wide 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. So there are a number of signs that have to go in to make it enforceable.
And it's a number of streets. Howell is one of 6 or 7 streets in that neighborhood that some very short, some somewhat longer, yeah.
There was a discussion again about reestablishing a separation wall between a residence and a garage, in a garage, between the garage and the residency. And meetings to discuss this will be scheduled in the future. For new business, we had an approval of the 2017 meeting schedule. And the next meeting for public safety will be on Tuesday, January 10th, 2017 at 8 in the morning, and the public is invited.
Thanks, Louise. Jim, Public Works?
Public Works met last week, a week ago this past Tuesday, and at the time, under old business, we were discussing and working on a request from residents in the Browncroft area, neighborhood Clover Shaftesbury sidewalk snowplow request is what it was. And Tim Keefe, our Commissioner of Public Works, updated the committee with the information from the Penfield School District, because the question really was centered around snow plowing requirements, and maybe they could possibly consider moving some of the locations of the bus stops for the children. But based upon the discussions with the staff in the transportation department there, it appears that the bus stop locations are very consistent with the school district policy and guidelines. And the committee's consensus was that a district would need to be formed to provide a sidewalk snow removal service if the residents so desire to pursue that matter further. Now, Tim, you want to make a comment on that? I know you've been in touch with the residents on how to do this if they want to move forward with such a request.
Yeah, Jim, it's really, at this point, continuing to give them some guidance as we can assist them with the process, but they have to take the initiative to get out there and contact and see if there's support to do so. There's a couple different ways to look at how the district could be structured, depending on the desires of the neighborhood. So, but that'll be something that they have to decide if they want to proceed in that manner or not.
Which is our standard procedure. Under new business, we reviewed the Public Works Committee meeting schedule for 2017, and we did revise 3 of the meetings' dates and times somewhat to in the finalization of that schedule for next year. So that'll be published here for, forthwith. Also, a request from the town of Pittsford to consider an East Avenue sidewalk project that they are considering. Plans were recently received from the town of Pittsford for the multi-phase project, which would construct sidewalks along East Avenue, New York State Route 96, between the village of Pittsford and the town of Brighton. So we're considering that at this time. And Tim, again, you want to make comment on that, because what we're talking about is a sidewalk, possible sidewalk on the west side of East Avenue or the south side of East Avenue.
Yeah, the Pittsford scope is very big, all the way from the village of Pittsford past Nazareth and up by St. John Fisher, and then down to the town line between us and Pittsford itself. We have a very, very limited number of properties from the Pittsford line to where we actually have sidewalks, but it's a challenging area to do that. So we're going to have to look at, how and if we can facilitate sidewalks in that area. Now, one of the things that we have done is we've asked, and I think the town of Pittsford may be in the process of doing so, whether we could do a road diet on East Avenue, and we've sent communication into the state DOT. So that may be something that would help facilitate getting sidewalks in, because we have properties where the grades are extreme, and we would have to construct a retaining wall, and I would venture to say that itself would be more expensive than the sidewalks we put in for the the handful of properties that are there. So it's challenging for us, but we will look forward to undertaking that as the Pittsford sidewalks go in. And again, it's three separate phases, and I don't have a confirmation on exactly what the time frame will be for that construction.
And then the last item that we've reviewed, of course, is how we're progressing with the leaf pickup. And Tim, again, you want to make a comment on that?
Well, I would first and foremost just thank everyone for their patience as always. This time of year between the transition from fall to winter and then winter to spring again, Mother Nature dictates how we react. We've had the 2 snow events. Our crews continue to do leaf collection. We will be working this week and next week. As things allow, and we're not out plowing, and we've had some good success with the Vector this year. We've had a learning curve with that. I know that the leaves came down extremely late. I don't think they've been down any later than this that I recall, because people that I speak to and that are a little frustrated they anticipate that we mobilize in October, but there was really nothing per se to go until mid-November. And so that has thrown a little bit of a challenge for us. But again, I just thank everybody for their patience, as people see and they get a little excited when the snow's coming, and we haven't got all the leaves up, but that's not something we have any control over, except that we do continue to grab the leaves. The crews are doing a fantastic job. We've been working Saturdays since, for the last probably 5 weeks, plus they did Friday, Saturday on Thanksgiving weekend too, so they put in the yeoman's effort, and the crews are just phenomenal, getting out there trying to take care of things.
I thought, what was impressive to me, we had, officially at the airport, almost exactly 15 inches of snow a couple Mondays ago. And on Tuesday, notwithstanding that, after a full day of plowing, they were back out the next day picking up leaves. And yes, it's slower in the snow. Last year we were picking up, what we have seen, and this year was extraordinary, but the leaf cycle has been getting later into the season. What also seems to happen, it certainly happened this year, is when it's later, it's much more concentrated. So not only, can there's no point in raking in October because the leaves are still up in the tree, but when they come, they all come at once. And just as it's hard for us as homeowners to get that big volume out to the street, our crews, who are in part moving those leaves with either hand blowers and to a certain extent rakes, they are moving a lot of leaves as well to get them to a place where they can be picked up, whether it's by the Vector or whether it's by traditional methods. It does take longer. I absolutely understand the frustration that people are feeling. We've tried to communicate using our various communication methods, particularly Facebook. We are not going to stop until we finish picking up those leaves. We are, well into a second pass through town, and I know that, to a certain extent, as weather permits, even when we finish that second pass, you'll be back out to pick up those isolated places where people have put out barrels or piles. But I do think it's important to remember last year, we were picking up leaves right through Christmas, and we're going to be again this year. Things have changed. It's a different, and the other challenge, of course, in this part of the world, the warm water of the lake, which we're also experiencing, is the perfect recipe for lake effect. Yeah. So although the leaves may be falling later because of warm weather, the snow isn't coming any later. We've had a lot of snow this year early, and that does compound it. We will continue to listen to you. We understand the frustration you have. Those leaves will be picked up, and I want to add, second what you said, Tim. Our crews do work hard. They're very dedicated to the people of Brighton,
and they're working on Saturdays.
Yep.
And again, I would thank the board for authorizing that overtime, because that had been taken out of the budget, a number of years back. I'm glad it's back in, because we would be at least a week, if not more, behind on our efforts.
Oh, we would be a week behind, yeah, because that's five overtime days that they've worked at this point.
Tim, I got a sense of just how hard the job is this time of year, as you say, Bill. I looked out my own window, and I've been very frustrated. I shared those frustrations with the commissioner, waiting for my leaves to be picked up. It seemed to take an extraordinary amount of time, but then when they arrived, just late last week, I believe, looking out, we have one spot where 3 families collect their leaves, which ordinarily would take perhaps 2 or 3 minutes for the loader to come by and dump them in a truck. They were out there for 15 minutes trying to push this massive pile out into the street, collect it up and such. And then I saw a familiar gait with one of the guys on the crew with a backpack on. Even the highway foreman, one of the highest level managers in our district here, was out there with the backpack on blowing those leaves. And I didn't see you, Tim, but I did see Pete Springer.
Laughing off on the job, Tim.
Yeah, I just do traffic control boxes,
I was
Chris.
just going to say.
But I'm impressed the effort that your crews are.
No, and that is the
I saw
highest
Tim
praise.
put on a vest and very
Right.
quickly do very hands-on work just yesterday.
Well, all right. You'll have to give me a call.
Anyway, our next meeting is Tuesday, January 3rd at 9 a.m. in the lower level community meeting room.
Great way to start the new year. Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, right.
We have no old business, new business, reading and approval of the claims. Jason?
Yes, Bill, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $3,312,421.99. Notable claims include to the New York State Employees Retirement System in the amount of $1,103,289, representing employee retirement contributions for the period of April 1, 2016 through March 31, 2017. Next, there was to Beam Mac Sales and Service in the amount of $406,060.50, representing payment for the new flusher truck. And finally, there was to Taser International in the amount of $31,824, representing payments for the body cams and associated storage of the images for the second year under that agreement. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second. Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio? Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Next item are appointments to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I want to make sure, though, that we're looking at all of them. The resolution you have correctly lists all the people that we're appointing. I'm not sure that the agenda does, but we are proposing to reappoint Judy Schwartz to a term on the Zoning Board of Appeals and to appoint Douglas Clapp and Jennifer Watson to fill the 2 vacancies that we currently have on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And as we have to do each year, appoint officers, Dennis Mites to return as chair and Christine Corrado to return as vice chair. Jim, can
With that, I move on the resolution regarding this matter as prepared by the attorney to the town.
But the 2 new.
Can we have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. The terms are different to address an issue that council identified, and we spent some time going back into the action that the town board took way back in 1993, and we've determined that at the time that we that the town board with a 7-person board, that the terms should be 7 years. So what we are doing is appointing these people to terms that will properly give us the stagger, so that 1 zoning board of appeals member will be returning each year. So that's why the terms in office are different for the 3. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Just a point of clarification, Supervisor. As you noted, the agenda did not include the other 2 positions. Should that be, as a point of order, be corrected at this point, or is that not?
Well, let's vote on the motion, and then we can have a motion to clarify the agenda, yeah.
In that case, Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye, and can I have a motion to clarify the agenda to add the appointments of Douglas Clapp and Jennifer Watson, as well as the appointment of Christine Corrado as vice chair to that agenda item?
Bill, as I had first moved the approval of the agenda, I ask that we amend the agenda to add those items.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
I just want to thank you to the board for this. Again, in the midst of various versions of the agenda, I apparently omitted this from the one that I had posted, so I will also fix that on the website as well. Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePoncio?
Aye.
Councilmember Warner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jim?
The next item is to receive and file the supplemental draft environmental impact statement dated November 30th, 2016 from Passero Associates for the proposed project known as Whole Foods Plaza and forward it to our town consultant, Stantec Engineering, for determination of completeness and adequacy for public review. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Ken, in looking at the resolution, I just want to make sure that you are comfortable. Obviously, we've talked about a traffic impact study. That is a document that's part of what we have here. We have the traffic impact study, the comments on the responses to the previous comments. Is it, Tim, and I'll look at both directions, that together those constitute the draft environmental impact statement, or do we need to make specific reference to the individual documents as being what we're receiving here?
Can you hand me your copies?
Sure.
So what I'm looking at, Supervisor, is a November 30th letter, November 30th, 2016 letter from Passero Associates, specifically from Jess Sudol. And that letter says that Passero, on behalf of the Daniele family companies, is sending to the town, or has sent to the town, a supplemental draft environmental impact statement consisting of 2 volumes.
Okay.
The first is a revised traffic impact study. The second includes written responses to all the substantive transportation comments.
Good. Then
So
I think that
believe that
answers-
that letter defines what is the SDEIS, and therefore I don't think that any additional change to the resolution is necessary.
Perfect. Thank you. Motion and a second. Any discussion on that matter? Obviously, we had, a lengthy discussion about this tonight, but again, as Ken mentioned earlier, the only thing we're doing now is really receiving these documents into the record and beginning our internal process of determining whether they are adequate for.
Bill, just to clarify Councilman Vogel's motion, the word determination caught my eye in our summary in the agenda. Forward to town consultant Stantec for determination of completeness. I just want that, I'd like to be clear that They do not make that determination. We make that determination, but.
Chris, that's a great
good catch.
comment.
The resolution itself, however, just simply provides that it's to be forwarded to the town consultant Stantec for their assistance in reviewing the document for completeness and adequacy.
And, you know, and I was gonna, you know, maybe again, we'll take action to clarify that agenda. I was gonna suggest, as you were talking, for the review, for review of the SDEIS for completeness and adequacy as agenda language. So let's act on the resolution first, and then I'll have you do another motion to amend the agenda. But good, real good catch. Thank you. Further comments?
Well, do we just want to go and accept a friendly amendment right now?
Well,
your motion was to approve the resolution as drawn. I have no problem with the resolution as drawn.
Yeah, and a friendly amendment would be before a vote has been taken on the underlying agenda. Since we've already approved the agenda and actually made one traditional amendment, we'll make another one. But let's act on the resolution that Jim, you made, and Jason seconded.
Yes.
Any further comment on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Noveros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. And now, Chris?
Bill, with respect to the agenda, I move that the agenda be amended, and my motion to approve it be amended to just clarify that we are considering the matter of referring the supplemental draft environmental impact statement prepared by Passero to Stantec for their assistance in reviewing the document for completeness and accuracy for public review, rather than as printed for determination of completeness.
I'd second that.
So what I would say, it's just so we got clear language, for assistance in the review.
For assistance in reviewing the document for completeness and adequacy.
For assistance in reviewing the SDEIS.
The SDEIS.
For completeness and accuracy.
And adequacy for public review.
Okay, good.
Which is the last line of the resolution itself.
Yep, good. That's Chris's motion to amend the agenda. Can I have a second to that?
I did, second it.
Thanks, Jim. Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Noveros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Next matter, Jim.
Yes, next matter is to set January 11th, 2017 as a public hearing date to consider the proposed Park Lane Refuse District. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion? Another opportunity to save a neighborhood, in this case, the Park Lane neighborhood.
Yes, indeed.
About $150 per house per year on their refuse bill. Grassroots government, grassroots democracy.
Group by.
We have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll to set that public hearing.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Noveros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Taser International to provide Taser electronic control devices, associated hardware, and services to the police department. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Mark, any?
It's just an upgrade to our current inventory of tasers, next generation. And, we're offering a 5-year amortization with no interest.
And a trade-in on our.
Trade-in, okay.
Good. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
About the second was?
Jason.
Jason, okay, thank you. Working on a new system tonight, so. Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Noveros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Jason.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize 2016 budgetary transfers totaling $9,705 from various highway department accounts into highway machinery and equipment accounts to support additional pavement marking services and purchase of highway materials and equipment. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Any discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Louise?
The next matter is to authorize the supervisor to execute agreement with Southpaw Designs, Inc. to provide police vehicle striping services. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
This renews contract. Southpaw is currently our provider on striping services, and the price is the same as it was.
It'll lock it in for the next 4 years.
Right, right. At our,
Current rate.
at the current rate, if we so choose, we have the option to renew for those 4 years. We have a motion and a second. Further comment? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute the renewal agreement with the Brighton Volunteer Ambulance to provide emergency medical services for the year 2017. I move that we adopt the resolution prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
And this contract, again, will be at the same price as last year's. The only difference really is a slight difference in the amount of in-kind gasoline fuel purchases. But the combined cost of the contract will be the same as it was last year, and that's funded through the ambulance special district. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal, forgot to check one off. Next item is to request for solicitation of qualifications for professional consulting services for review of future traffic impact studies. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney for the town before us.
Second.
This is something we've done in the past in a couple of professional areas to identify potential professional service providers so that we can expedite the process of retaining those professionals as needed when we have traffic impact studies, in this case relating to environmental reviews. We've done it in the past for commercial appraisal services. We've done it as well for professional engineering services. So nothing we're doing here commits us to using anybody's services. It's really just a method of getting out, doing what's called a request for qualifications, determining, making some assessments as to, in the current market, who is the best qualified for projects of different kinds, so we can, when we get a submission in, we can engage one and get pricing terms a little bit more expeditiously. So we have that motion and the second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks for the supervisor to execute agreements with the New York State Municipal Workers' Compensation Alliance, Comp Alliance, for employee workers' compensation benefits and right risk management as third-party administrator of any pre-existing claims for 2017. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Two things. First, this is a program that is affiliated with the New York State Association of Towns. I serve on the board, on the executive board of that organization. However, that's an unpaid position, and I receive no compensation relating to this program, which is provided by an independent organization, workers' compensation insurance. Ken, I don't believe there's any restriction on my participating. This is at an increase of a little over 1% of our, about 1.5% from our cost from last year. And last year, if you'll recall, we switched to the Comp Alliance and saved about $45,000. So we are still well below where we were 2 years ago on the cost of this program. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Jim?
Next item is authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal of all seasons work agreement with the Monroe County Department of Transportation, in which the town of Brighton will provide particular services along Monroe County roads located in Brighton for the years 2017 through 2026. I move in the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Tim, if you could discuss this agreement, please.
Supervisor, I'd be happy to. This replaces a contract that had been in effect for a while and actually had been, there had been amendments made, so it was signed every year. This allows for basically a 10-year contract for us to provide similar services. The rates are periodically reviewed and updated, so it's not as if we are signing a 10-year contract that will be flat. So, it basically includes roadside mowing, dead animal pickup, and some other issues that are sort of a very generic, as they call all seasons agreement, to provide services on county highways.
And those rates are determined based upon our hourly or their hourly rates, or what's the formula, if there is one?
Well, the formula is predicated upon what they would go through, and we do get reimbursed for our hourly rates. It's basically the fringe benefits that always gets, they average that so that they don't maybe necessarily pay everyone 100% of the fringe benefits, but it's somewhat of an average, a blended rate. So for the most part, we are reimbursed almost in full.
And this is a concern, a question that Louise raised and has raised in the past in terms of the frequency of service.
Yeah, I would like you to, that it's a 10-year contract bothers me because they refuse to go back to 2 or 3 times a year to clean up. And
well, the cleanup, the roadside mowing is the issue that they went from 3 times a year to 2 times a year, and that's where we stand now. Dead animal pickup and some other things are on a case-by-case basis, so those would get handled individually. But you are correct. That is where the county, deemed they could save some money years ago, and they made that decision.
That was one of the amendments to this last long-term contract that they had.
Right. But on the other hand, I have been working in discussions with them regarding our ability to get out there and do some of the trimming along the curb line with the weeds that are problematic as well. So it's sort of a little bit of a give and take, but again, for most of the properties in town that border county roads and are developed, those properties do take care of the roadside cutting as part of their normal maintenance. There are areas that we get out there, but again, if we could get them to reinstitute that would be great. But I think if you look at the history of the county and fiscally how they've been, I don't know that they're going to budge on.
Well, it is.
On that.
We went through the charade last night. The county budget process, and they cut a service that, was universally hailed, the opportunity to once again provide DMV services in the heart of the city of Rochester. And that was turned down. A number of years ago, again, in the name of, fiscal, they kept the price the same. They keep saying, oh, we haven't raised the taxes. But that 2-quart container of ice cream is now, or the 3-quart container of ice cream is now a 2-quart container of ice cream. So when they say they haven't raised the taxes, what they've done is, again, cut the services or forced us to cut the services. So when you look at your tax bill and you say, oh, the county didn't raise my taxes, think of that tub of ice cream and decide whether, when you get a 2-quart container instead of a 3-quart container for the same price, how good do you feel? I don't feel so good, and Louise, I'm glad you keep raising that issue.
Maybe in part of this a certain part of this agreement can be taken out and renegotiated. Maybe not.
Well, again, you have to go through county law. I'm not saying that it can't be, but then this is negotiated through all the towns in the county. We do try to cut as low as we can when we do the mowing, so that it doesn't look as bad. But this past year it probably wasn't too bad, except for the weeds because of the drought. But in other years, it's a challenge to keep up with it.
Okay, well, we do have a motion and a second, and I do support this, but I really think it's important to note some of these, the smoke, or I'm not sure if this is smoke or a mirror, but it's one of them.
Well, I'm glad our town deals with charrettes as opposed to
Charades.
charades.
Great one, Jim. Thank you. Dan, please call the roll on this before we have any more fun.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Louise?
The next one is to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with the Animal Hospital of Pittsford to provide boarding and veterinary services for 2017. I move on the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Again, our ongoing work that we do, and our code will, we will have to, take action on pricing as well to reflect any changes.
That's Mark had, the chief had said that at the finance meeting, and I agree with him. There's one major player in town, and it's really too bad when one organization owns almost all of the veterinary services in town or even in the surrounding towns. And so there's no big negotiation made on prices. And it's even if you're a pet owner, it hurts.
And as the supervisor alluded to, Councilwoman, at FASC next week, I'll have a matter to adjust the fee schedule for 2017 to reflect the price changes. For the most part, the town does recoup those boarding fees as long as the animal is claimed. So at the least, it's not as great for the residents as they're paying more, but the town will largely be made whole on these transactions.
Yeah. But you're right, Louise. That is the current state of the market.
No competition, when there's no competition.
We have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize supervisor to execute a renewal agreement with Holfoth Risk Management Company to provide continued independent risk management consulting services for 2017. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
We just heard earlier about work we do in reviewing our insurance, and in doing that we rely in part on the consulting from Holfoth Risk, who is not affiliated with any insurance carrier, so they give us, direct, unvarnished advice, and we appreciate it. They've done well by us for many years.
Yep.
Further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Jason?
Yes, the next matter seeks approval to record various 2016 budget transfers and appropriations to reflect changes occurred since the adoption of the 2016 budget. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. And one more, Jason.
All right, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with HB Solutions LLC to provide tracking and reporting services as required for compliance with the Affordable Care Act, effective January 1, 2017 through December 31, 2019. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
As we've discussed before, a couple of years back, we joined the Finger Lakes Municipal Health Insurance Trust, or FLMHIT, or sometimes referred to as the consortium. And this is one of the ancillary services that we pay separately for, but it's consulting services to track and report our employees and make sure that we're in compliance with the Affordable Care Act. And to the extent that the Affordable Care Act may or may not remain as it is, this is a 3-year agreement, or 3-year agreement, so we'll see. If it changes or goes away, this contract might change or go away. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros?
Aye.
Councilmember DeFanzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, I really don't have anything that we haven't already discussed. Matters of the attorney to the town, Ken?
Just one matter on the second last item on the agenda. I did not have in my packet a copy of the actual budget transfers that are to be attached to Ms. Azo's memorandum. So if we could just step back to that.
I'm on,
All right.
I'm on the version of the
It's on
packet
the
that's on the website. It's actually the last 2 pages.
Yes, Counselor,
Just out of order.
it was the packet that the board received, that item somehow got
Okay.
flipped around and thing, but the website does reflect the.
Yep, I see it. I see it now. I
Blank
see it.
pages on
It's
one form and the other one. came
Terrific,
Yeah,
okay.
fine.
Thanks, everybody, for
That was it.
Good looking out.
catching that, absolutely. That's it? That's all I got. Town clerk?
Only because I don't know if maybe people will be tuning in on the 28th one during the daytime. If we broadcast or still recorded.
I believe we are planning on,
I believe that your assistant has made arrangements for that to be
Live.
broadcast, and therefore, if it's broadcast, then it's going to be recorded.
Then I have no matters tonight.
I believe that's the case, but it is a good, my last words were going to be just a reminder that our next meeting, December 28th,
And I just got confirmation from her that I'm correct.
will be at noon. Boy, she's good. Thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you very much.
Mary Ann's listening, is it?
Yes, she is.
Oh.
Noon, December 28th, Wednesday, December 28th, as we traditionally do. The meeting between Christmas and New Year's is held on, during the day. Matters of the town board. Louise, you were starting to
Yeah, let's
talk
cut off
about
there.
something, and so let me ask you if you'd like to.
I just In addition to, for people giving clothing to Brighton Your Wardrobe and food for the Brighton Food Cupboard, I was just made aware of that it is very much appreciated by the rec department if you have children's toys, or if you're cleaning out your crawl space or your basement and you have, I had a lot of greeting cards that I never used that you get in the mail and so forth. And the camp or the after-school program was thrilled to get them because they're making collages and they're also making up their own Christmas cards for relatives, and it gives them another project to do. And a lot of people like myself have oodles of stuff in their crawl spaces or in their basement, and I don't like to be part of a garage sale. And I'm looking for places to give this stuff to, the stuff that's in good condition. And I think that it would be helpful if we look to the town first. Some of the stuff that I have, for example, are some kitchen pots and pans. Well, they said, yeah, the senior program could use those. And you have to go, they have to be okay and they have to be approved, but I think people should come look at the town as well as other places that they may want to donate things to.
I think that's a great thing. I would just note that before anybody just drops stuff off, that they ought to check to make
with the
sure,
departments.
because we are not
I know.
There are some wonderful groups in the community, the Salvation Army and others that do accept things. That's really not what we are
No, but I just say,
up to do. There may be the occasional case where it's helpful. But thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention. Any other matters of the board?
I wanted to express my appreciation and to say just how impressed I am with Dan's versatility in digging deep here and getting this agenda before us and organizing all of this on short notice. But at the same time, I do want to note how much I appreciate Mary Ann Husser's skill, because in my 5 years on the board, I've never seen the necessity to amend an agenda. So as hard as Dan worked to do this, it's his first time out, and
well, I won't, and I'm not going to put any responsibility for having to amend this on Dan.
But it is an appreciation because I know she's listening.
But Mary Ann does do
hard
a
work,
great,
but she does a great
job on.
But Dan, thank you.
This
I
process.
didn't know how we were
and
going to
so
do
many
it.
others. Can I have a motion? Any other matters of the board? Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining and appointment of particular people?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmember Novros? Aye. Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. I don't anticipate we'll be coming back into open session, so thank you everybody who participated tonight. Enjoy the holidays. We have Hanukkah and Christmas both coming up before our next meeting, and I want to wish everybody a very, very happy, safe holiday season, and we will see you at our next board meeting at noon on Wednesday, December 28th. Have a good evening, everybody.
Aye.